Ansah, and you're watching Homeland, the story of the returnee. This is a show where we dive into the perspective of diasporas in and out of Ghana, talking about their challenges, their fears, and their aha moments. Today on the guest, I have Mr. Joesph Mensah. When I talk about jack of all trades, I'm talking about a man that worked in air control pollution. We're talking about technology, serving 32 years in IBM. MBS solution that sold 1 billion companies. And now in energy at KOSMOS. We'll get back at you.
Hello, my name is Kofi Upon Ochre, and I bring you NASA on DNT, a program designed to expose corruption and indiscipline in our society and advocate for the punishment of these offenders whose activities impede national development. The National Road Safety Commission indicates that Ghana loses $230 million to road accidents, with over 1,600 deaths reported every year. In 2018, Shraj report indicated that Ghana loses 13.5 billion Ghana cedis to corruption. And United Nations Children's Fund UNICEF has also stated that Ghana loses $290 million to poor sanitation alone. This is not right. So make a date with me, and together let's name and shame the offenders of the law. NASA, see something, say something.
Welcome back. And before we start, we always have a segment to start with. So, welcome my guest, Mr. Joesph Mensah. Hello, Mr. Joesph Mensah.
Hello.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
I'm great. Could be better. But before we start our show, we always try to do an icebreaker. It's a segment called Yes or No. So I ask the question, and you just answer yes or no. And I'm going to ask you a few questions. My first question is, do you cook?
Yes.
Impressed. What would you say you cook? I know I said yes or no, but I'm a little bit intrigued.
I cook steak and eggs.
Soup?
I can make soup.
Okay.
And I can make jollof rice.
So I'm guessing jollof rice would be your favorite.
Yes, it is.
Could you live without the internet today?
No.
1 week?
Yes.
Okay. My favorite question of all. Have you ever had your heart broken?
Yes.
Really? How many times?
Once.
They always say everyone has to go through one heartbreak. Would you say you care for what people think about you?
Yes, I do.
You do? Have you ever lost a fight?
No.
Never. So you've been in fights? Fist fights?
No.
So you've never had a fight?
Never had a fist fight.
Since childhood?
Yes.
You had a mate? Oh, so now I feel... I feel like I was the rebellious child, I guess. So not even once? Not even...
Not even once. Ever.
So you've never hit anyone?
No.
That's principle. That's principle. Well, that was the segment for yes or no. We'll come back to you soon.
Hello, my name is Kofi Upon Ochre, and I bring you NASA on DNT, a program designed to expose corruption and indiscipline in our society and advocate for the punishment of these offenders whose activities impede national development. The National Road Safety Commission indicates that Ghana loses $230 million to road accidents, with over 1,600 deaths recorded every year. In 2018, Shraj report indicated that Ghana loses 13.5 billion Ghana cedis to corruption. And United Nations Children's Fund UNICEF has also stated that Ghana loses $290 million to poor sanitation alone. This is not right. So make a date with me, and together let's name and shame the offenders of the law. NASA, see something, say something.
So we're back with Mr. Joesph Mensah. And of course, we talked about the yes or no, but I have to dive a little bit into his hobby. And a little bit, you told me you like jazz. But before jazz, I read you were a professional footballer.
Yes, I played. In America, we call this soccer, but yes, I did play. Because I played semi-professional about 5 years in the States.
Okay, for how long?
5 years.
5 years, and I heard you were a coach.
Yes, I also coached soccer, and my son actually coached for him to win the championship game in the States.
Why didn't you take that career further?
Well, my parents, especially my dad, who actually pushed me and always believed in education, says when you play sport and you would break your leg and you can't play anymore, that's the end of your career. So I'd rather develop you with your education so that regardless of the situation, you can always be able to do something.
So if you had education to fall back on, then you could still continue your passion, right?
That is very true.
So what stopped you from?
As a matter of fact, when they first started indoor soccer in the U.S., I was one of the pioneers.
Indoor?
Indoor, yes. They were playing, football in indoor.
Okay.
Yeah, during the winter times.
Okay.
And I was one of the, pioneers. And at that time, I was working as a chemical engineer. So I went to the coach and I said, listen, I could play because I'm a local entity here. I could play to bring up the game. And they had wanted me to quit my job as a chemical engineer to play for them. And I said, no, I'm only playing to help to bring the game up. And therefore, I had to...
Your chemical engineer was you was not giving that up anytime soon. Okay. What other hobbies were you into apart from football?
Well, while I was, in high school here in Ghana, where I went to Pokwara Secondary School, I was a senior prefect before I left.
Okay.
And I played hockey, football, and I ran track.
Usually for people to be prefects, they must be really smart and also snitch.
Well, honestly, during our time, the smartest person always gets, selected as a senior prefect. But I was not the smartest person during my time. But I was, very popular guy on campus.
I used to believe
and that's why they elected me to be the senior prefect.
Do you ever regret not following your football career?
No, I don't. Because for the simple reason that I believe that where I went through and what I did really prepared me very well to be all-rounded, to be able to participate in almost every environment that you put me in. And I think I cherish that quite a bit.
That's amazing. So right now, what would you do for fun? Since football is your hobby, jazz, what do you do for fun now?
Right now, I do a lot of reading and I listen to music, jazz. I just love jazz.
Just jazz, not other genre?
No, local music. It's always as a cultural guy. I'm a chief as well, and therefore, when I listen to outdoor music and all of that, I really
So you listen to the youth right now?
Oh, most certainly.
So who's your favorite youth right now?
Right now?
Yes.
Well, if I may recap, because I spent so much of my time in the U.S., the rap music and all of that. When they were coming in, I started disengaging. So, when I come in here, Bob James and all of that, folks that I really listen to in terms of jazz space.
That is amazing to know that you still like modern music, because I don't. And so how was growing up for you in Ghana?
Growing up, I was born in Menchia, close to the palace.
Oh, I've been there.
Yes. And then, I started, primary school and then ended up in the Modern City Academy, which doesn't exist anymore today. It was a boarding school. And from there, that's when I went to Opokwari.
Oh,
so I was from boarding school to Opokwari.
It's Opokwari, the secondary school, right?
Secondary school, yes.
So the boarding school was
it was just, K through, 12, before you go to high school.
Okay.
So we were only there for about, maybe 5 years before going to high school.
So for you to be in a boarding school, that means your family was well off?
Well, I wouldn't say well off. My dad at that time was one of the senior managers at Ghana Airways.
That's well off.
So we had the privilege of traveling all over the world, and I think that's part of the reason why how we became all right. And my dad, did something to us. Back then, my siblings were frowning on it, but it turned out to be the best thing that he ever did, which is when you travel, you come back and you write my trip to Germany, my trip to Rome, my trip to England. And then you write, when you write a good report, the next summer when you're going on a trip, he will double your stipend for you.
Oh.
And out of the family, my siblings had 10, 5 boys, 5 girls in the family. And precisely I was the only one that really kept it up.
5 boys, 5 girls. I'm 5 boys, 5 girls. That is so nice.
Yeah, so and it paid off because it allows you to learn about different cultures and be able to relate. And I think that's what's helped me develop to be where I am today.
So what would you say your favorite country that you've been to since you traveled in and out?
I always say Rome.
Rome. Another city.
Yes, Italy it's a fun place to be, and
So who were your parents for you to be able to travel at a very young age during those times?
But at that time, because he was senior manager at Ghana Airways, I traveled first class I pay $1 and I traveled first class. Ooh. Back then. You didn't have to, so that's how we were able to afford it. My daughter today wants me to do the same thing. I said no.
Yeah,
it's a big difference.
Do you mind dropping names?
In terms of?
Your dad.
My dad was C.E. Mensah. That was his name, yes. My dad is since passed, yes. May he rest in peace.
Oh, may so rest in peace. Yeah. We have similar stories. Family of 10, dad's gone. So how would you say the growing up in Ghana shaped you to be abroad?
In fact, I always say that, the foundation and the discipline that I have today started from home, here at home. Because when we were growing up, everything has to be orderly. And the respect for the elderly was premium. Whenever you had an argument with any of your senior siblings, you will always be at fault, regardless of how logical you were. Yeah. You will always be at fault. So that the only thing was that while we enforce discipline in us, it stifles a bit of our creativity because it doesn't allow you to really challenge authority. And growing up, and I think when I get to high school, that's when I learned that that was an important, quality to have. That is to challenge the status quo. So I started that from high school, and it's really paid off so well for me. From high school in Ghana? Yes, I did. Yes.
You challenged?
Yes, I did.
And how much trouble did you get in challenging?
I got a bit of a trouble. For example, two instances. One, I was the dorm prefect.
Okay.
And the Form 1 students were supposed to clean our rooms. So the young boy that was supposed to clean our room came to me and said, "Senior, I have an exam coming up, and therefore I need to go and take that. After the exam, I'll come and clean the room." I said, "Sure, that's very important. Go and do that." When he left, the housemaster came, and he said the room was not clean, and being a prefect, yes, I should have made sure the room was clean. It wasn't clean, so I should go bring cutlass to go cut grass. And I laughed at him. I said, "No, that's not going to work. I will not do that." and because, I was not going to interrupt the kid's, exam for him to come and clean the room while he has to take an exam. No, it's more important. And he'll come and clean the room in the afternoon. It was an argument. We went to us, senior staff meetings and all of that. And I was just, scorned, but I didn't have to cut grass. That was the first instance.
So you've been a man of discipline since high school?
And then the second piece was when I was in sixth form, where I was a senior prefect. An instructor came into class, and then I said something, and I questioned it. And he didn't like the fact that I was questioning. And then again told me that you're going to cut grass. That was the normal punishment they give to everybody. So everybody in the room started laughing. Said, are you serious, a senior prefect, to go cut grass? So he kicked me out of class.
You didn't
plus,
do it.
plus the guy who laughed the loudest.
He also got kicked out.
Yeah, he's a medical doctor, and a good friend of mine. As a matter of fact, in our year, he was the one that had the best scores. Dr. Aaron Pokwapia. He went to Harvard and did his medicine, and he's in Florida now. Brilliant guy. Yeah, he laughed the loudest, and the two of us were kicked out of class.
So, would you say the education system in Ghana, since challenging authority from Ghana, America opened the door of you just challenging more perspective, yes, challenging more authority? Yes. How would you compare the education from Ghana to America? Like, what was the challenges? What was the aha moments? And
yeah, aha moment was, for example, when I went to Yale, my first class, chemistry class, the first class, practically I didn't learn anything. Why? Because I was just flabbergasted. Sitting in an auditorium full of students, somebody eating an apple, somebody, writing something else, somebody with his foot on the, leg on the table, and somebody used their left hand to raise their left hand to ask a question. It's a taboo here in our country. You can never use your left hand to, And I was just, sitting in the theater, just watching all of that. I wasn't paying attention to what was being taught in the class. That was the first day in my chemistry class.
First year, whole year.
Yes. And the first day I was just looking around, I said, wow. And again, I stepped back and I said, oh, okay. This really allows them to be free. And it brings the creative juice out of you to question stuff. And I said, this is the path. And I started developing that. And I did that all throughout my career at IBM. I challenged authority like there's no tomorrow. And it served me well.
In Ghana, did you school all the way to university?
No, I was schooled from high school. I went straight to Yale.
From high school straight to Yale?
Yes. I mean, from high school, from sixth form, during our time, it was 7 years of high school.
Oh, okay.
And then at the six, upper six, then you go to the university.
Oh, okay.
So instead of going to university here, I went to Yale.
Would you comparing Ghana and Yale, or comparing Ghana education system and the broad education system, what would you say the difference is?
The big difference is lack of resources and the fact that, critical thinking,
yes,
it's not much in our program here locally. And I think that's what is, stifling our progress.
Would you say the Western world a lot more practical? Like you're more involved in activity,
yes,
you're
you
very
are.
practical.
Yes, you are.
Just
yes. When you go to physics lab, you actually do an experiment. And that experiment will be teaching you everything that you need to do by the time you come to the classroom. And then you flip it here. You will come in here and there's a theory that we pay attention to. And we'll memorize all the formulas and everything. But over there, you actually do it practically. And the formula will come to you naturally by doing it and observing what happened. That is the biggest difference that I see. Because, and I give this example that I was speaking at the University of Ghana the other time, and I made a humorous remark that when I was back here in Ghana, I took a computer science class, and one of the test questions was draw a computer and label the parts. And then I said, I hope you guys are further along than that. And everybody started laughing. No, not too far, not too far. So I turned to the vice chancellor and I said, please, you have to change this.
Definitely needs to change it. But then why chemical engineering? Like, you love sports, football. Why didn't you divert into like sports, therapy, but chemical engineering? That's a far-fetched of career to go through. How did that come up?
I tell a story about when I went to Yale as a freshman.
Yeah.
And people will ask me, Joe, what are you going to study? And then I said, I'm a chemical engineer. And they says, how do you know? You just got here. How do you know? And I said, my father told me.
Oh.
So my father told me that I had to be a chemical engineer, and that's why I did. Fast forward 30 years, my son is going to Yale, and I'm reviewing his forms, and he's got chemical engineering on it. And I said, son, you're going to Yale to do chemical engineering. Why? But Daddy, that's what you did. And I said, my dad told me I had to do that. I don't care if you go learn how to wash dishes. Go and explore and do what you want. And it was the best thing that I ever did for my son.
That's amazing how you can see the generation transit from our parents and what to do. So now my generation where we're very free to exploring anything you want to do. So I just want to know your stay, like from Ghana, you moved straight to Yale, definitely. But then moving from Ghana to another continent overall, like the isolation, how did you adjust? Did you go through depression? Did you have moments where you were like, I give up, I want to come back home? Because it's just so different worlds apart.
No, I was very fortunate because my oldest sister was in the US, and so was my older brother. And because while I was in high school, I was spending my summers over there. So I was a bit familiar with the, culture and everything that in there. So when I applied to the place, and also Opokwari also had a lot of students that were going abroad to MIT, Yale, Harvard, and all of that. So when I went there were already like 3 Opokwari students at Yale on Yale campus. So we just bonded, and it makes it much easier with the transition and all of that. And because I was also playing soccer, I was very fortunate. I became a soccer star, instantly. And therefore, I created a lot of following, and it helped me, opened a lot of doors for me.
Opokwari sounds like a very expensive school to be able to open doors to internationals and traveling. Would you tell me a little bit about Opokwari? Just a little bit.
Yeah,
especially your meal times.
It's a Catholic, institution. Yeah. Our sister school, St. Louis Secondary School. And we were very privileged because it was started by the missionaries. So we will have, the bell rings, 5:30 in the morning for us to go to church. Okay. And then after church, we start classes. We had breakfast, and we can even have morning, in between mid-morning holics. And, we will have that before we have lunch. And then we have, mid-afternoon, tea and all of that before we go to dinner. So we were quite privileged on campus during those times.
So you lived the life from childhood all the way to here. So how is it when you were in your working abroad? How was it for you? Did you enjoy it? Did you think, I'm working abroad, I want to come back to Ghana? Like after you acquired all your degrees, did you want to stay there? How was working there for you?
Working there was very good. It developed me and also enhanced the discipline that I went in there with. And then respect for time, and also taking pride in your work. You develop those type of skills, and it's lived with me till today. And I think those were the best, things that I learned from that environment. I set a goal for myself. I have 2 kids, and I wanted both of them to be Ivy League educated. So once my younger one got into Yale, I said my job here in the U.S. is done, and I need to go back home. Of course, my wife disagreed and says, no, we're not done. But I insisted that since the kids are both, Ivy League, I'm done. My work is done, so I'm going home. So that's why, and I decided to come home, and I worked on IBM, coming to open an office here. So I came and opened the office, and then started the IBM business here. And some people would say it was soft landing for me. It wasn't really harsh. So I was very lucky and fortunate, and it worked out very well.
Mr. Mensah, this story, I would love to sit down and ask more questions, which we're going to come back to. We're going to have a short break, and I'll come back to you.
Thank you.
So you're watching Homeland, the story of the returnee. We're talking to Mr. Joesph Mensah. As you heard, he had different career paths, from a football player to chemistry, and all of a sudden to technology. We'll deep dive into that when we come back. Stay tuned.
Hello, my name is Kofi upon Ochre, and I bring you NASA on DNT, a program designed to expose corruption and indiscipline in our society and advocate for the punishment of these offenders whose activities impede national development. The National Road Safety Commission indicates that Ghana loses $230 million to road accident, with over 1,600 deaths recorded every year. In 2018, Shraj report indicated that Ghana loses 13.5 billion Ghana cedis to corruption. And United Nations Children's Fund UNICEF has also stated that Ghana loses $290 million to poor sanitation alone. This is not right. So make a date with me, and together let's name and shame the offenders of the law. NASA, see something, say something.
Welcome back to Homeland, the story of the returnee. I hope you're still in tune watching what I'm watching with you. My name is Nana Ansah. And please, if you haven't been watching this, sit back and sit tight. We have Mr. Joesph Mensah with us. This is an amazing man with different career paths that has still ended in energy and now in Ghana. Mr. Joesph Mensah, there's a question I want to ask you. You had a goal which after two children, you're moving to Ghana. I'm in a situation where I don't want to be caught up in a system and abroad that would not make me come to Ghana. What advice would you give me?
The advice I will give to you, you always have to do your homework. It's very important. Because there's a saying that, nobody plans to fail, but people fail to plan. Once you have a plan and you are really dedicated to the plan, make sure that you really reach out to your network and collect more data points. Because in today's world, data has become the new natural resource. Yeah. And when you mine it right, you're going to get something good out of it. So my recommendation is to make sure you get enough data points to help you so that the decisions you will be making will be informed decision and not by emotional or whim or anything like that. That is the foundational piece. Once you start that, then you can see your way forward. And then have a goal, milestones that you set for yourselves. And then you hit the milestone one after the other. And then eventually you get to the destination that you're looking for.
Thank you so much. That was some great advice. And also, since you worked in America and worked in Ghana, how would you compare both? How do you think Ghanaians received you when you came back? And what would you say the mentality is like? Business, just common conversation, religion-wise? What would your perspective be on that?
There's a varied, perspectives that you can share on that, but the biggest piece of it is the discipline and the respect for time. It's what I don't find, I see lacking here in our environment. Back in the U.S., if I have an assignment that's due on Friday, I'll try to get it done by Thursday, so that at least I have 24 hours to tweak something if I have to. But since I've been here, most invariably you see that assignment is due on Friday, and you probably get it Friday at midnight. Or sometimes there'll be an excuse why it didn't happen, therefore you get it the next day. I try to really change that, and I did quite a bit of that while I was at IBM. And people that I stayed on to change that look back and always thanking me for taking them through that. Initially, people were saying, listen, that's not how we do it over here. That's not how we do it. That was the favorite refrain, hey, you don't do it like this here. And I said, no, this is an American company I'm running. I'll run it just like I'm in America. And it really caught on. And it made a difference for me, both in IBM and where I am today.
Would you say this is a double-edged sword where the respect for time is lacking, but it builds patience?
Yes, indeed, it does build patience. That is true. And there are a lot of diasporans that are trying to settle home who get a bit frustrated and want to pack and go back. And each time they would come to talk to me, and I try to talk them out of going back. And just to, and my favorite phrase to them is that, patience, is as bitter as the sweetness of its fruit. And therefore, when you can endure that patience and get to the end, you turn around and you say it was well worth it. And therefore, God, in fact, that respective time that I'm talking about and the patience, yes, you could say and make the statement that you just made, because that's what it is. Because if you don't have the patience, you can deal with it, and you pack and go. That's not right.
Sometimes the bitterness is just too bitter.
But the sweetness is worth it.
So, Mr. Mensah, I'm really intrigued on how did you transit from different sectors and different industry all in one, from football, energy, pollution? How were you able to maneuver all that? And were you certain on one industry, or you just went with the flow?
It's very interesting. When I left here as a chemical engineer, my first job was working as a chemical engineer at Untitled Chemical. And I was responsible for environmental engineering. We designed distillation columns to do work, and then we create treatment facilities. And because we are producing chemicals, the byproducts could be, polluting the air pollution. So pollution control was very, very important. And we had chemical manufacturing associations, and I was representing my company. So we were very, very, serious about making sure that whatever we are putting out is clean and it's not, carcinogens that will cause cancer over time and what have you. And also the water effluents, we have to treat all of that. So I spent quite a bit of time in that and then helping the company do all. But as I was doing it, I did for a few years, and it was becoming more and more self-centering. So I said, no, I need to go back to school to broaden my horizon. And I went back to Yale to get an MBA. And then from there, that's when I joined IBM. And IBM, because of my engineering background, wanted me to do technical work. And I did technical work for a few years, but I insisted that I wanted to move to the sales and marketing side. And it was a bit of a fight, but eventually they allowed me to do that.
You had to fight your way through it.
and that's when, and then of course, as I did that, I managed various divisions all across, small, medium business, and all of that. And when I came back here, I was responsible for the full portfolio of IBM stuff. And I did that for about 6 years, and then moved on to KOSMOS. So when I came to KOSMOS, and then of course my chemical engineering stuff became quite handy, and it was a very smooth transition for me. And it's it's been great because it's a very small company. Of course, as you know, it's a company that put Ghana on the map with oil, and the discipline and the ethics that I find in them, it's what really gets me excited and wake up every morning to go to work.
So chemical engineering kind of bond all the industry in one for you. So it was just kind of the glue that bonded all the industry. That's amazing. It's like when you read it, it's just different career paths. I'm like, so many career paths, but now it makes sense how the chemical engineering bonded it. Final for us is, when was your defining moments? Like your biggest memory when you came to Ghana, when was your defining moment and you were like, I'm willing to tough this out. I'm willing to give back to Ghana?
When I came and working at IBM, I wanted to do something that was transformational. And I wanted to take a lot of pride in working with the youth. So I really got involved in the YALI program and making sure that we could really groom the youth to drive the agenda. Because I've always made statements that we are blessed with everything. There's nothing we don't have. We have the people, we have the resources, and yet we're poor. Why? It's unacceptable. And therefore, when we have quality leadership and attitudinal change, those can change the narrative for us, and not only for our country, but for the continent. And therefore, the investment in the youth is something that I take very, very seriously. So while I was at IBM, we were mentoring folks at Ashesi University, We did work also for AMA, trying to make Accra a cleaner city. So IBM had a program called Smarter Cities, whereby we bring in thought leadership to spend time with the leaders. It's all pro bono. Spend time with the leadership to try to define how can we help, whether it's health, education, and what have you. So came up with a white paper for the city of Accra to really transform the place. And that was one thing that I felt very proud about doing it. The implementation was what was lacking when we turned it over to AMA. And, but I still carry that passion today to want to really help bring the youth up. So when we came to KOSMOS and we started KOSMOS Innovation Center, it's all directed towards the youth, creating entrepreneurs, to really change the narrative. We started in the space of agriculture, and we've created about 11 companies, all youth, driven. So you sit back and you say that, gee, you don't have to just, graduate from school and want to go work for someone. You can graduate from school and go study your own company. It's doable, and you can watch, the path that we have created. So many other companies are now jumping in to do similar things, which is very good for the country, and we take a lot of pride in that.
You talking about giving back, I read something about St. Francis Foundation.
Yes.
Do you want to enlighten me on that foundation?
Yes, St. Francis Foundation is, I'll sit on the board of, there's a hospital in Hartford, Connecticut called St. Francis, and they put me on the board. And I sat on the board, and the foundation was to really raise enough funds to be able to help the deprived get medical care, and then also change habits. For example, when we are trying to help people to work on obesity, quit smoking, getting people to really go for medical, physical, and all of that, because there are people today who refuse to get physicals. And if you don't, by the time you realize that you have a problem, it might be too late to turn around. But if you get physical and get ahead of the game, medical science and everything today can really help you have a quality life and live longer. So that was very passionate of mine. I really enjoyed, being on St. Francis Foundation.
From youth giving back to the youth to giving back to the community, you embody all this. It's amazing to see, and it's amazing to see a man in such power to still say, I have so much more to give and so much more I want to help. And that, I was amazed, extremely amazed. And from me, I want to say thank you for helping, just the deprived to be able to smile, to be able to get up in the morning and look up. Like you always said, there's this famous saying, which is health is wealth, which I'm going to assume you agree with that.
It is, yes. The new wealth is health. It is. Because I tell my people, employees, everybody, I say your health is number one. Because without health, you don't have anything. Your family is two. And the job comes a distant third. If you rearrange it any other way, you're asking for trouble. But if you really follow that path, there's nothing but success that's ahead of you.
I'm so inspired. Not only are you smart and innovative, you're also a chief. You're into culture, tradition. How did all this happen? And why you're so modest and so chill about the title?
Well, it all started back in 1992 when they were promoting the Ashanti culture in the diaspora. My elder sister was the first queen mother of the transformation of that into, that was in New York. And then in 92, I was crowned the Ashanti chief for the New England states, all the 6 states in New England: Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Maine, New Hampshire. And I took the oath of office with the Bompata Mahini, Nana Ansah. He's, I think, been working to help the K University events, today. And I did that for about 6 years in the U.S. for New England states. And then in 1998, I was installed at Pejahini of Kumawu, because I hail from Kumawu in Ashanti region, Pejahini of Kumawu in 1998. And I have been the chief since then.
That's amazing. So you have your culture wear. Do you usually wear it, or are you like
Yes,
in
I do. Yes, I do. I do wear it on events. Yes.
Events?
Yes. And every time that I'm, doing cultural activity back, I do that. I'm going to funerals, I'll dress like a chief and all of that. But coming to work, of course,
Yes.
I have to be in the Western.
So I'm guessing you know how to dance Adwa.
Oh, yes.
Can you show me like small hand movements? I want to know small hand movements. I really want to learn. Because small hand movements.
Hand movement?
Yes. No! That's amazing. Well, I'll come back to you, Mr. Joesph Mensah. So we were talking to Mr. Joesph Mensah, as you know, he's a chief. Did you see the hand movements? If you haven't seen it, you have to check him out. This is the Homeland, the story of the Returnee. Back to you soon.
Hello, my name is Kofi upon Ochre, and I bring you NASA on DNT, a program designed to expose corruption and indiscipline in our society and advocate for the punishment of these offenders whose activities impede national development. The National Road Safety Commission indicates that Ghana loses $230 million to road accident, with over 1,600 deaths recorded every year. In 2018, Shraj report indicated that Ghana loses 13.5 billion Ghana cedis to corruption. And United Nations Children's Fund UNICEF has also stated that Ghana loses $290 million to poor sanitation alone. This is not right. So make a date with me, and together let's name and shame the offenders of the law. NASA, see something, say something.
My name is Richard Darkey, but you can call me Dick for short. I'm 6'6", and so I don't take life too seriously. I think life is hard as it is, but one thing that I've always said, you can't enjoy life living on eggshells. You need to have fun. Be the one to say, I'm sorry that I did and not that I wish that I had, because at the end of the day, you need to go for it. Okay, go for it and trust the process. Don't look for shortcuts, because usually sometimes what people want to do is to find shortcuts to things and to life and success and all of that, but you need to trust the process. Know that you need to take every step. I would have said probably two. I like to see how Nanado and John Mahama will be together, you know, having a party and having a good laugh. But then again, let me go outside of Ghana. I like Will Smith. I've followed him for a while now. I think I like his style. He likes having a lot of fun, and I'm someone who likes having a lot of fun as well. He's someone that is not fazed by anything at all. He actually challenges or attacks his fears. And following him for a while now, I think he's someone that I definitely would like to have. Double D, it's all good. I'm gonna be your host for Fake News. I'm really excited about it. Like I said before, one of my biggest hobbies is putting balls into holes. Small holes, big holes, I got you. And don't be thinking about anything crazy. I'm talking about something like basketball, big hole, talking about something like shooting pool, small hole. Think of Fake News, think of Dick Darky. I'm gonna be in your home, it's gonna be on your mind, and I'm looking forward to meeting you on your screens. See you soon.
Welcome back to the Homeland, story of the returnee. We've been talking to Mr. Joesph Mensah, and this has been such amazing conversation. And I hope you sit in tune, and also, if you've missed it, sit down and catch the final statement. This is what's called the Big Six. Hi, Mr. Joesph Mensah. The Big Six is where we end it all. And it's a segment of either or, and then why. So I'm going to ask, and then you have to choose either or, and then tell me why. So my first question to you is, formal or traditional?
Formal.
Why?
Because most of the population and most of what we do, it's all formal. And we are in developing, I always look at country and what is good for country. And we are getting to a stage to be able to develop to attract foreign into the country. And therefore, if there's anywhere leaning, you need to lean to the formal side to relate and then bring the investments that we're looking for.
That's a dope perspective. Yes. Never actually looked at it that way. Politician or preacher?
Politician.
How? How come? Why?
Because the preacher comes natural. It's normal for an elderly to be able to do all of that. But I say political because there's a statement by Plato which says, wise men pay dearly of government by fools when they abstain from politics.
That's a deep cut.
And therefore, politics should be important to every human being.
Okay, brains or beauty?
Brains.
Brains all the way?
Most times.
Why?
Well, because you can have all the beauty in the world, and if you cannot really do anything else beyond that, there's a limit. But if the brain leads that, then your flexibility is wide open.
Fame or money?
Fame.
Why fame?
Because whenever you're famous for something. And that is the lasting impact that you can leave on others.
But doesn't fame bring pressure? And if you're broke, how does that work hand to hand?
No, pressure is okay. Pressure, pushes you to do more, to excel, to do better. But fame, it's very important because, as I said, all life, the legacy that you want to leave is a good name.
So when you're famous, you can definitely leave a good name. Okay. Structured or go with the flow?
I lean towards structured.
All the time?
No, most of the time.
Most of the time.
But you have to, you have to go with the flow sometimes to be able to allow the flexibility and, allow, because if you go structured, that means you're looking for perfection all the time. But we are human. And therefore, you have to allow room for mistakes.
My final and favorite of all, single dance.
Dance.
Dance. Well, Since you said dance, because this is a double-edged sword, you either had to sing or dance. So, would you please give me, a little dance movement? It's either two-step or sway, or maybe other way.
So who's going to be my partner?
I would do it.
There we go.
I would do it. You lead, I'll follow. You dance to jazz whenever you go to your jazz class. It was amazing to have this sit with you, Mr. Joesph Mensah. I would love to dance, actually, to see you get up and have a jazz and see the groove going on. But thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for giving us this moment. My final to you, before I end this, what would your message be for returnees coming back to Ghana?
I want them to have all the patience in the world to tough through it, because I've always felt that we need our diasporans for our country to develop to where it should be. You need experience, education, and exposure. For the diasporans, they do have the experience and the exposure. When you bring that here with the local and the knowledge and the education that we have together, we can develop the country and take it where it should be. We are not where we should be. So we can get there. We need the diasporans. We all have to be together to pull it. So I plead with them to tough through it and then come and join us, really drive the agenda, because we can change the narrative of our country and the continent.
Thank you so much for that. And this is the end of our show with Mr. Joesph Mensah. Like he said, we can and we should change and make Ghana a better place. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did and you learned something from it. Till next time, my name is Nana Ansah, and you're watching The Homeland, the story of the returnee. Good night, good morning, or good afternoon, wherever you are. Bye.